Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. It's only natural to crave closure. If you've made the decision, it's one less thing to worry about. But many decisions by counselors, indeed by most people in human interaction, are judgment calls, which often can be wrong. So having an experimental mindset is important. For example, when you decide to be silent in an interaction, think of that as an experiment. Did the silence receive a positive result? Would you predict that the person's response would have been better if you said something, maybe proposed an insight or made a suggestion? The right answer is going to vary, of course, with the people and the situation, but maintaining an experimental mindset will, especially as experience gives you more sensitive antenna, it'll result in more success. Here's a more fleshed out example of how an experimental mindset can be helpful. It regards the question of how much small talk to encourage before beginning a meeting or a session. Let's say a client walks in and comments on the beautiful shrub in front of your home office. So you decide to say a little bit about that, but keeping that experimental mindset, you notice that after that comment, the person is silent. That's a clue that your next comment might move toward beginning the meeting or the session. For example, if you're a counselor, I've been looking forward to hearing how you've been doing. Again, pay attention to the response. If the response is session related, or the person angles their foot away from the waiting room and toward your office, those are signs to move forward. If the person makes more small talk, that experimental mindset of yours allows you to shift back to small talk at least for a little while. I have a client who, before the session begins, likes to make little jokes and puns. If I jump into the session before he's done that for a couple minutes, for example, if I were to ask, so what have you been thinking about and perhaps doing since our last session? His face closes down a bit. So now I join him in a few minutes of joking and stay attuned to when I sense he's ready to begin the session. Here's another central example, if it's probably an obvious example. Often you or the client will propose trying something, a career to explore if you're a career counselor, a pitch to customers if you're a business advisor, a way to cope with worrisome thoughts if you're a therapist, a research idea for if you're a medical researcher. It is critical that you and the other person have an experimental mindset. For example, I so often say to a client, I'm a career counselor, I say something like, okay, we've identified 3 possible ways to reduce your procrastination. Do you have an intuition as to which one or more are worth trying? And remember, even if this experiment fails, we may learn something from it so we can come up with a better experiment the next time. Here are some other issues that might particularly benefit from an experimental mindset. And of course, it'll vary with the client and with your own preferences and strengths. They count too. I'm focusing on psychology and counseling-ish kinds of things, but they have broader applicability. How fast should you proceed in the interaction? Some clients need lots of breathing space during the discussion. Others thrive on quick action-oriented sessions. What percentage of the time should you listen versus talk? Should your demeanor be warm, neutral, or even colder? Should you be humorous? How intellectual versus feeling-centered should you be? How complex an analysis should you present? How much, if at all, should you revisit the person's past trauma? Should you be self-disclosing? Should you encourage higher aspirations or lower ones? Should you interrupt? Should you err toward optimism, toward neutrality, or pessimism? Should you confront the person? How intensely? Should you, in saying goodbye or hello, should you shake hands, hug, or just say hello or goodbye? Should you encourage the person to have a next meeting in person, or by phone, or by Skype or FaceTime? Should the next session be a full one or just a brief check-in? Those are just some examples of where that growth mindset, that experimental mindset, is particularly important. Sticking too rigidly to a one-size-fits-all approach, whether it's consciously or you're just because you're on autopilot, that's inimical to effectiveness. An experimental mindset is helpful in nearly all human interactions. For example, as a counselor, as a manager, as a physician. It's even helpful beyond the human domain. I'm still very much trying experiments to get my new doggy Hachi to come rather than chase squirrels. In any event, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up, accept your thumbs down, your comments, your hitting the share button and sharing your social media, and or subscribing to my channel. In any event, I do again thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.